The other day, the latest issue of Car and Driver plopped in my mailbox. Well, that's not completely true. I don't have a mailbox. I'm one of those second-class Canadian citizens who doesn't receive home mail delivery. I have to schlep over to some community mailbox thingy for the privilege of carting home copious quantities of junk mail. You know, they say the postman always rings twice, but at my home, he never rings that bloody doorbell. Anyway, I did eventually crack open this September issue of Car and Driver and was surprised to see it was their second annual all-electric vehicle issue. Surprised, that is, because when Car and Driver published their first all-EV issue last year, the periodical received perhaps the greatest amount of hate mail in Car and Driver's 67-year history. Hey, who knew? Turns out most Car and Driver readers care less about EVs and more about V8s. But hope, as always, abounds, I suppose, and kudos to Editor-in-Chief Tony Quiroga, who basically implies in his editorial that he's expecting another avalanche of hate mail for this current issue about EVs, but he implores his readers to, quote, "Don't confuse coverage with infatuation," end quote. But if you are indeed infatuated with EV car stories, this issue is definitely for you. There are stories about EV SUVs and EV sedans, and I know this is heresy for so many of you, EV pickup trucks. There are EV vehicle reviews, and there are columnists waxing poetically about EVs, and there's even a weird story about regular citizens who welcome EV drivers into their homes to charge their vehicles. I picked up a Silence of the Lambs vibe reading that one. Nevertheless, as Johnny Carson's sidekick, Ed McMahon, used to bellow, everything you need to know about electric vehicles is in this issue of Car and Driver. And as Johnny would reply, not quite, hydroelectric breath. You see, as the EV revolution sallies forth, there are some not-so-glowing stories that must be noted about these vehicles that have ditched fossil fuels. Indeed, not to dump on progress, but allow me to outline why EVs are not really the miraculous planet-saving vehicles that those in power would have you believe. First and foremost, there's the price tag. The cover story of this issue of Car and Driver is the proclamation of the EV of the year. And spoiler alert, it's not a luxury-laden Jaguar or a wickedly fast Lucid. It's a humble Hyundai Ioniq 5. The Ioniq 5 does not boast the fastest speed nor the longest range, but rather, in the words of Car and Driver, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is a, quote, car priced for the real world, end quote. Well, let's just pump the brakes here for a second, shall we? The price of the Ioniq 5 Car and Driver tested is $57,490. Now, that's before taxes and fees, so add about another $11,000 to the off-the-lot price. So is a $69,000 EV really a so-called car priced for the real world? If so, what planet is Car and Driver residing on? Just to take a quick detour for a second, I will say this, Hyundai has come a long, long way since the days of the not-so-dearly departed Pony circa 1985. In fact, Hyundai build quality back then was so awful that the very name Hyundai used to be akin to an automotive slur. Check out that immortal put-down by Alec Baldwin, that savage sales trainer in the superb 1992 film Glengarry Glen Ross.
I've been in this business 15 years.
What's your name?
Fuck you! That's my name. You know why, mister? Because you drove a Hyundai to get here tonight. I drove an $80,000 BMW. That's my name.
Wow, in 3 decades, Hyundai has gone from a punchline to a cover girl, but I digress. By the way, while the advertised sticker price is hefty enough for EVs as is, given that there is a huge supply shortage out there, please note that the dealer markups on EVs especially are brutal right now. Case in point, Do you know the sticker price of the 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning EV is US $69,554? But get this, folks, the dealer markup is an astonishing US $73,341. Yes, the dealer markup is actually more than the price of the vehicle itself. That makes the asking price more than US $142,000. In other words, you can have one electric Ford 150 or two gas-powered F-150s for the same price. Geez, where is my I Heart Fossil Fuels t-shirt when I really need it? But you know, whether or not you clamor for an EV, I'm fine with whatever your decision is. Heck, maybe you won the lottery and money is no object. Choice is a good thing. Make no mistake, folks, we are currently living in a golden age of automobiles. You want a mini-size or a monster-sized SUV? Hey, you got it. You're into retro-themed muscle cars? Well, the Detroit 3 are serving as well with offerings like the Mustang, Camaro, and Challenger. Maybe you want to save on gas. Well, there are hybrids galore out there. And if you're into hauling cargo and or people, many minivans are still being manufactured as long as you don't mind driving the automotive embodiment of the white flag of suburban surrender. The point is, there is a vehicle for every need, want, and desire. Better yet, the build quality has never been better. But I fear this golden age of autodom is coming to an end. In the past year, 4 out of every 10 new vehicle launches were for an electrified vehicle. Many more are on the way, and I'd be perfectly fine with this trend if it were being driven by the free market economy. But it isn't. No, EV propaganda and proliferation is a direct result of government meddling and even quasi-government meddling. Case in point, the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, both entities being unelected and non-accountable, are increasingly telling us how to live our lives based on climate change. They want us to get from point A to point B, preferably by public transit. They want us to eat bugs. They want us to abandon single-family dwellings and live in high-rise apartment buildings. These are the Build Back Better types, hypocritical fun burglars who worship at the altar of saving the planet. Oh, not that WEF head honcho Klaus Schwab is going to give up his private jet or his chauffeur-driven limo, mind you. All these lifestyle changes are for the great unwashed masses. Here, check out the increasingly creepy Bill Gates. He's attending some event to preach about sustainability and whatnot. Did he commute there via bicycle? Well, let's just roll the video.
Hey! You will not succeed, Bill! Crimes against humanity, Nuremberg 2 is happening. OpenFairs.com, we have all the research. Have fun defending yourself in front of a court of law.
Bill Gates just arrived at the Cascadia Innovation Corridor Conference in this very environmentally friendly helicopter.
Go get your lab.
How are you guys today? So, is this an electric helicopter? Is this helicopter electric? These are Bill Gates pilots trying to figure out if he arrived today on an electric helicopter or if it takes jet fuel. They don't seem to want to be answering our questions because this is a climate change conference where they want net zero carbon emissions, but this produces a lot of carbon emissions. What do you guys have to say?
Well, now, wasn't that special? I guess that helicopter was powered by dilithium crystals and the GMC Yukon operates on fairy dust. What an appalling hypocrite Bill Gates is. Thanks to capitalism, thanks to free market economies, Gates started Microsoft out of his garage back in the 70s and went on to become the richest man in the world. And now that he has achieved the pinnacle of the American dream, he wants us to tear the system down to prevent anyone else from doing likewise.
What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.